Welcome everybody to the Cover 2 podcast. My name is Nenad.
And I'm Jared Smith.
And today we have another great show for you planned today. A little different than normal. We're not reviewing as much in sports, but we actually are going to have a debate about the MLB Hall of Fame and steroids and all of that stuff a little bit later. We are going to start the podcast with a little bit of football. Jared, do you want to change the screen a little bit? It is a little bit off.
Oh, I'm sorry. What are you? Am I? No, not in the camera.
I think
enough?
we're like sideways a little bit. So
okay. Sorry. One moment, people.
One moment.
Nick,
we'll go.
Nick,
but yes, we're gonna. It was my fault because I told them it was straight and it wasn't. But
I don't know, Nick. You tell me what's good for you, man.
Yeah, I think it's maybe just tilt it a little bit straight toward me again. No, I'm just.
You want your face more in the picture, or
we should be good right there. But we are live. This is live. Like I mentioned, we're going to do a little Hall of Fame debate, and we also are going to dive into, of course, the NFL Conference Championship games. Chiefs get a big win, more dominating win against the Titans, and the 49ers essentially blow out the Green Bay Packers in what was a game uneventful, boring, to be honest, and it really didn't pick up until probably like the third quarter, fourth quarter. So let's get into it. Let's go back to Chiefs and Titans. We now have our Super Bowl matchup. I think a lot of people are excited to have the Chiefs in the playoffs specifically, or in the Super Bowl, specifically because, the high-powered offense, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, the defense has gotten better. Tyrann Mathieu was actually hitting people last game. And so we get this kind of matchup that I think a lot of people wanted to see last year with the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. What were your kind of thoughts on the game and your thoughts on the Chiefs being the AFC representative?
I am ecstatic that the Chiefs are in because of the excitement and the high-powered offense that this team possesses. You have Patrick Mahomes, who many people are calling the Michael Jordan of the NFL, the new face of the NFL, taking over that spot, taking over what Tom Brady used to be. He is the up-and-coming guy. Many people think that he will get a $200 million contract. That's what he will demand from the Kansas City Chiefs, and more than likely well-deserved, especially if he does come out and win a Super Bowl for Kansas City. I mean, this guy just does it all. He can use his legs to run, which we saw in the game against the Titans. Obviously, we know that he has a cannon of an arm and weapons surrounding him. This Chiefs team is they're just exciting, even if you are not a Kansas City Chiefs fan, which I am not. But I love to see points scored, and I love to watch them play. So, yes, I was rooting for Kansas City because even though the Tennessee Titans were the Cinderella story in the sense of the NFL, and they're a smash mouth, old school, running the ball style type of team, really, if you don't have a dog in the fight, if your team that you root for is not in the Super Bowl, I'm assuming, would prefer to see a high-powered offense as opposed to a team who runs the ball 50 times and only throws it about 5 or 10. So for those reasons only, I am very much excited to see Kansas City in this game and to really see Patrick Mahomes kind of cement his status in the NFL as one of the best. Because right now that's what we think he is. But you get remembered by what you do in big-time moments and in championship games. Patrick Mahomes will be remembered for what he does in this game, not necessarily what he's done in the regular season.
No, that's a very good point you make, is that this is kind of Patrick Mahomes' time. A lot of quarterbacks don't get this chance, and a lot of great quarterbacks don't get this chance. We've seen a lot of kind of average quarterbacks. I don't want to be say this in disrespect, but you see a lot of Ryan Tannehill type quarterbacks sometimes make the Super Bowl and win those games. And so, if the Titans would have made this game, you would have been like, okay, whatever, it's a cool story or whatever. But realistically, this guy, there's a lot of other guys that deserve to be in this game besides a guy like Tannehill. Well, Patrick Mahomes deserves to be in this game. And last year they ran into kind of the overtime rule, right? Patrick Mahomes didn't get a chance to win the game for his team last year. He gets vindicated, a clear win over the Tennessee Titans, and now he gets to show his power, his prowess as a quarterback, his knowledge against one of the best defenses in the NFL.
So we always talk about dynasties, right? And especially with the Patriots, it's like, oh my gosh, we're so tired of seeing this dynasty win year in and year out. And we can talk about other sports like college football with Alabama. You know what I mean? So we don't really like dynasties, but I will say, if the Titans would have made it to the Super Bowl and eventually won the Super Bowl, I would have kind of sat back and been like, man, it's kind of like a disappointment. And here's why. In the next 5 to 10 years, is it more likely, in your opinion, that the Tennessee Titans will become a dynasty or the Kansas City Chiefs?
Oh, I mean, it's not even a question.
Okay.
Kansas City Chiefs.
For saying that we don't like dynasties, in my opinion, I would prefer to see Kansas City because I feel that they are better equipped to be a very good team going forward for the next 4 to 5 years. To whereas the Tennessee Titans, they literally came out of nowhere. They started the season 2-5.
Yeah.
They had to make a quarterback change to Ryan Tannehill, who they traded for during the season, and somehow, some miraculous way, they kind of pull things together. I don't see the Tennessee Titans coming back next year and the years after and being as good as they are this year. I think this was somewhat of a Cinderella year for them, much like, and I'm sorry to say this, back in 2015 when the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl. Now, they had a great defense for about a 3 or 4 year stretch, but in reality, they were never in contention for the Super Bowl except for that year in 2015 when they beat the Carolina Panthers, right? It was kind of like a one-hit wonder.
Oh, well, I know they got killed by the Seattle Seahawks, but they did make another Super Bowl in those 3 years. So I have to disagree with you on that point. The defense did get them to 2 Super Bowls. They just got murdered in one of them, like killed.
See, I forgot that they were even in a Super Bowl because they got murdered.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's what I thought. I thought when you brought that up, I was like, I don't think he remembers that.
I didn't. So I stand corrected. Yeah. A friend of ours, Alex Silva, who loves the show. Sorry, don't kill me about that. They did make it to another Super Bowl. I think what I'm trying to say here is, for Tennessee, if they would have made it, it would have been like, oh, okay, that was nice, you know, it would have been cool. But are they going to have that sustained success for a period of time? And I don't feel that they are equipped to do that. The Kansas City Chiefs, on the other hand, with a franchise quarterback that they are about to lock down for the next 10, 15 years, you have weapons all around you on offense. Really, you can start to build your defense and just become even more of a dynasty. I would just prefer to see Kansas City, a team that is going to be better equipped for years ahead.
Here's the other thing, too. And by the way, you can be in the Super Bowl and lose and still create a dynasty. Like, the Patriots lost a ton of Super Bowls, too. You know, the Chiefs have slowly risen with the rise of Patrick Mahomes to conference championship, losing overtime, now to the Super Bowl. Even if they lose, this still could be the start of a dynasty in Kansas City. And what do you usually have when you have a dynasty? There's the main thing. You have a great head coach, which I think Andy Reid is. The defense is important, but it really isn't as important when you look at history. Some of the dynasties, Dallas Cowboys, who was the quarterback? Troy Aikman, right? Awesome quarterback. There were other players that were great on those teams, but you got to have the quarterback. San Francisco 49ers back in the day, Joe Montana, right?
And then they got lucky because they then had Steve Young as well.
And so it continued. But again, the quarterbacks, doesn't matter who it is. If you go, a mini kind of dynasty, the Green Bay Packers, Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. Not as much, and especially lately, the Packers haven't done as much, but when you switch those quarterbacks. So Patrick Mahomes does fit that mold as a guy that we do expect to eventually be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
True. Even
though he's super young, just the way his career has projected so far and how much he passes the ball and his running ability, this sets up everything for the Chiefs to have the dynasty, and with the Patriots possibly kind of going downhill after this, and Brady moving out of Massachusetts and all that stuff.
Right.
This might be the start of the new AFC dynasty.
So this just popped into my head, and I don't want to get too far off topic because we are going to continue the discussions with the 2 conference championship games from this past weekend. But we're talking about dynasties, right? In your opinion, let's go back to the 90s, right? With the Buffalo Bills, who made it to 4 consecutive Super Bowls, lost all 4 of them. They had Jim Kelly. Were they a dynasty? No. Okay, I had to throw it out there.
You can't never succeed in calling yourself a dynasty.
They made it to 4 consecutive.
Okay, for
4 years in a row.
I'll give you an example. So, if the Cleveland Cavaliers had never won that championship in 2016, would you have even remotely thought of them as a dynasty? In comparison to Golden State. A little different because Golden State was the dynasty then, so you wouldn't consider it. But a team that loses every single time, not a dynasty. Like, you cannot call it. And you wouldn't call the Miami Heat a dynasty back in basketball. I know we're talking about basketball, but it's just,
Just trying to bring other
You have to
comparisons
dominate and continue to succeed for, I think it's 6, 7, 8 years at least. After that, it gets
to be
hard.
called a dynasty.
Yeah, it gets hard to.
For over half of a decade. So they can't just be like a 2 or 3 year run.
Absolutely not. No, because you can just join the. I mean, like, we're not going to be calling the Lakers a dynasty anytime soon either, or the Clippers. We assume most of these players will be gone off those teams in a couple of years, and then we'll start a new one, right? Golden State winning every single year, being really good before that, doing stuff without great play. They were a dynasty. This year, unfortunately, they've gotten injured, but I still think with their team, they still would have been a playoff team. The Patriots for a while didn't win a Super Bowl either. We still consider this a 20-year dynasty, but there was a long time in there where they would just, making playoffs every year, but they weren't winning Super Bowls. So you don't necessarily have to keep winning every single year.
I had to throw the Bills out there because when you make 4 consecutive championship games and you don't win,
you can't.
And they also have that qualification you were talking about with Jim Kelly, which was their franchise quarterback as well.
Very good quarterback. Yeah, they just succeed once. Right? Okay. I give the Cleveland Cavaliers more of a dynasty than them just because LeBron won the one. Yeah, I say LeBron because LeBron won that championship. Okay, Kyrie made the shot. LeBron won the championship.
Let's get back to football.
Yes. Okay, so is there anything else we need to talk about with the Titans? Can I go in on the Packers, please, now? Can I just light them up?
The floor is yours.
So here's the problem I had. Okay, so Sunday night, I had plans after the games to do stuff with people.
Always personal, by the way.
This is going to be very personal.
Okay.
I had planned to do stuff with a bunch of my friends, a big get-together, so I was excited to watch the game. I was also excited to do this stuff after, and there was only the one game, and it was, whatever. So I had picked the Packers to win, if you remember.
That's a mistake, first of all.
This win, okay?
I would have told you to pick the 49ers. But
I decided to go with one of my Packers friends to a Packers bar down in Newport Beach, okay? Shut up a little bit late.
Mistake.
Being lazy, being hungover from the Conor McGregor fight stuff the night before. Got there a little bit late. Yeah, it was like 14-0 or 10-0 or something like that. Not that bad. I think it was the end of the first quarter right when I got there. Whew. Did it turn quickly. I didn't hear a single clap from any Packers fans until the second half. Like, it was crazy. Like, it was so disappointing that... because I'm just going to state this right now. My Arizona Cardinals shirt, I'm wearing the sweatshirt today. I'm wearing the sweatshirt today because Larry Fitzgerald just bought a steak in the Phoenix Suns. I think that's cool, right? Couldn't find his jersey at my house, so I wore the sweatshirt instead. All this is personal. It has nothing to do with podcast analysis. It's just my story of Sunday, right?
Yeah, we're reading personal stuff all over the place today. You're just going to have to deal with it.
Okay,
sorry.
So my Arizona Cardinals defense was ranked 30th in the league. There was a couple games this year, 32nd, excuse me. There was a couple games this year where we could not stop the run at all. Okay, we could not stop the run if you would have told me that our owner's life was on the line. Okay. Here's the thing: that in the playoffs, conference championship game, the running back being Raheem Mostert, that was the worst rush defensive performance I've ever seen in my history of watching football. How do you let Raheem Mostert almost break Eric Dickerson's playoff rushing record and score 4 touchdowns and average over 9 yards per carry? Jimmy Garoppolo threw the ball 8 times in the game, completed 6 in the NFC Championship game. Jared, what the hell was that?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
We could not have predicted
okay, I'm going to talk about some...
So bad.
This Raheem kid, by the way,
yes,
was cut by 6 other NFL organizations before he landed with
the 49ers.
What
were to my points?
How pissed are these other 6 organizations that let him go?
No, they're pissed they didn't play the Packers in the playoffs. That's why they're pissed.
Here's the other thing, too. This is the 3rd time that the Packers have traveled out west, specifically to California, to play a game. The first 2 were in the regular season. They actually played the 49ers back in week 12.
Got killed in that game,
they got whooped. I think they only had 8 points. And then, I forget which week, I believe it was like week 10 or week 9, they played against the Chargers out in California, and they lost like 35-11. So I think it's something about California where this Packers team just can't come out and function. And it's interesting because Aaron Rodgers is from California.
He's from the Bay Area.
University of Cap, right? He was upset.
And it wasn't his fault, though. It wasn't his fault. Because if your defense can never get out the field and you have, he still got him 20 points, right? I know the defense is it, but Aaron Rodgers in his career has still never gotten worse than 20 points in a game in a playoff game. Okay, that's impressive. I'm not going to put this on Aaron Rodgers. Still threw for 326 yards. I know he threw a pretty bad interception, but from the view of behind him, it was very difficult to see the defender, and the defender kind of jumped the route. So in the bigger moment of the game, when it kind of changed the game, but I think this is on the defense and Matt LaFleur and Mike Pettin and how you let a average running back at best literally almost have the best playoff performance in playoff history in a passing league. What is that? I thought the Titans ran the ball. I thought that was this was unbelievable. 8 passes from Jimmy Garoppolo. It's ridiculous.
A couple things. Number one, can you imagine a San Francisco 49ers and Tennessee Titans Super Bowl? You would probably have a combined 10 passes by both teams.
I wouldn't mind that necessarily.
But just in today's football, right, whether you want to talk college or the NFL, with the amount of air raid passing attacks, teams passing for 40 and 50 attempts per game for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, right? And all this scoring. And yet you have these two teams who have gone back to the old school way of playing, and it has taken them to the conference championship game and has taken one team to the Super Bowl, right? So it's just funny how some teams have kind of gone back in time and they've seen a lot of success. The second thing is, if you're the Green Bay Packers next year, do not schedule any games in California because it's an automatic loss. It's an automatic loss. Or just any games in the West Coast for that matter, right? Just stay away from the West Coast. Just stay in Green Bay, stay within your division, because apparently they just can't travel out here and play well at all. That's the only thing I can chalk it up to. You've come out to California 3 times in 1 year, and you've gotten whooped in all 3 of them. None of them have been close. There was no opportunity for the Packers to win. The moment the ball was kicked off, the Packers lost this game. Immediately.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. When you get down to the San Francisco 49ers, when you're down by double digits, it's tough to come back. They have one of the best, if not the best, defense in the entire NFL, and they run the ball very, very efficiently, right? So they can control the clock, they can keep your offense off of the field, and then when your offense is on the field, you have to go up against a great defense. That is a recipe for disaster. So you cannot you cannot fall behind against a team like this, right? If you're going up against a mediocre team, or if you have a great offense, maybe you can come back and sustain some type of success, but not against with the Packers. This is what they did all year. They were up and down. Yeah. There was games when Aaron Rodgers looked like the Aaron Rodgers of old, and then there was games where it was like, wow, he looks like he is old, right? And it's like, man, are his best years behind him? Did they need to start looking to the future?
I'll say this. This was potentially the worst 14-14 in the history of the NFL. How this team only lost 4 games all season.
A little bit of a stretch, but
with their normally 13-3. I say 14-4 because they won a playoff game, lost a playoff.
Okay,
So
I hear you. I'm following.
But I just think when a team is 13-3, usually there's this. It's like the 49ers, right? Or the Chiefs or the Patriots. These teams where you're like, oh, they had a great year, right? That team was good this year. I never thought that about the Packers this year. I always thought there's they're gonna end up 11-5. They might be 12-4. They could drop down 10-6 eventually. But it was always man, this team barely wins all of their games, and they lose these strange games. It was just, I don't know. It was. I think this is almost was meant to happen. The real 13-3 team beat the crap out of them twice, literally, and it was almost that's
well, and this
nothing you can do about it.
This is also where home field advantage comes into play, right? Yeah. If you really think about it, going back to the last game of the regular season second to last, when the 49ers played the Seattle Seahawks, that came down to one play, came down to inches, right? We very well could be talking about the Seattle Seahawks with the number 1 seed, the San Francisco 49ers having to go on the road, and maybe the 49ers aren't even in this, right? Maybe the Packers would have had a home game, right? And if they would have had a home game, I'm damn sure that they wouldn't have put up the performance that they did against the 49ers. So it really comes down to 13-3, you're expected to have home field advantage at least for a game or two, if not throughout the entire playoffs.
In the Packers scenario, home field advantage was absolutely important.
Necessary.
It was absolutely necessary. Before we move on to baseball, if we want to talk about another topic of these conference championship games, I do want to mention that I just looked at the Packers 2020 schedule. They play uno games on the West Coast.
That's a loss.
One.
It's a loss.
One. You know what it is?
Against the Chargers?
San Francisco.
San Francisco?
Yes.
It's a loss. It's already a loss. Just chalk it up.
They're going to get killed again.
I don't care if they have a great draft.
San Francisco.
If they get
That's
free
brutal.
agents.
That sucks.
They're going to go 15-1 at best. At best, it's going to be a loss.
And the 49ers are going to go 16-0.
Yeah, or they're going to go 1-15. They're going to have at least one win, and it's going to be against the Packers. The Packers just don't play well in California.
Hey, book it.
Yeah, I'm going to Vegas right now. I'm putting money on that game. I don't care what the spread is. I don't care what. I'm just straight up
money line 49ers for that game.
It's going to happen.
Doesn't matter what the spread is. Put all your life savings down.
Packers cannot travel out west. It's plain and simple. They've gotten whooped 3 times. The games have not been close. And I think that's the other issue as well, is in a game of this magnitude, when you have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl, this isn't just a regular season game where it's like, oh, okay, we can bounce back next week. This is win or go home, right? Aaron Rodgers already won a Super Bowl. He knows what it takes to get there. Now, I'm not blaming this all on him, but when you are the face of the franchise, you're making $30+ million a year. Yes, it is on you to sometimes pick up the slack of your lacking defense, of your lacking receivers, or your lacking whatever the case may be. So for the Packers to come out and start the game off down 27-0 at one point, they just were not prepared. There are no words. I'm glad I'm not a Packers fan because I probably wouldn't be doing this show with you right now. I'd probably still be sulking. The fact that they come out and got shut out in the first half, 27-0, in a conference championship game with the Super Bowl on the line, is
this brought back terrible memories from when I was when we played the Panthers and how quickly it got out of hand.
It gets ugly, right?
And how you just know you're going to lose the whole time, and you've been waiting for this game essentially all season. You were going to get to the Super Bowl, then you were going to have like 2 weeks off, and then you lose the championship game. I dealt with that. Yeah, I dealt with that now with the Dodgers twice. Albeit we were cheated against twice, but now it feels a lot better, right? But it felt even the weather was the same. Like it was kind of gloomy. It was very weird.
All the stars lined up.
Yeah, I was with a bunch of fans of the team that I was not rooting for the 49ers. I'm an NFC West guy. I wanted the Packers to win. Real quick, 2 quick questions for you. Did you? And these are random. Did you know? And did you expect that it had been 50 years since the Chiefs had been in the Super Bowl?
I did not.
Did that shock you as much
It
as
did
shock
shock me,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And an even more awesome aspect of this is the AFC Championship trophy is actually named after Lamar Hunt, who is I believe the founder of
Clark Hunt, his son, is the current owner.
The founder of the Kansas City Chiefs.
The guy in the booth that wasn't getting high-fived by anybody after their first touchdown. That's the guy. And number two, a little bit more serious on the 49ers side, will the media and the NFL be petty and not mention Colin Kaepernick heading into the Super Bowl?
Oh, they're going to. Oh, of course.
You think they're actually going to talk about him?
Are you kidding me?
I'm just saying.
100% they're going to. Now, I'm not.
They have to. He was the last quarterback to bring him in the Super Bowl.
Now, when it comes to the Super Bowl, this isn't just NFL reporters or people who work for the NFL who are involved in the media and talking to players. So you're going to have people from news outlets and all branches of the spectrum coming out to talk to these players. So it may not be an actual sports journalist, right, or a sports media person who asked this question, but I can book it and almost guarantee that somebody will ask, whether it's a coach or a player or even the 49ers ownership, about, the last time you guys were in the Super Bowl, you had Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah,
it will come up. It will come up at some point. There are, in the next 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl, for both of these teams, the 49ers and the Chiefs, they will have mandatory media sessions where they are, in a sense, forced to sit and talk with the media for a certain period of time. So, you know, even they don't have to answer questions. They can be Marshawn Lynch and sit there and say, I'm just here so I don't get fined. But they will have to sit there and, you know, at least hear these questions from reporters.
Yeah.
So I guarantee somebody will say something about it.
Yeah, but I fully am not going to be I'm not going to be surprised if the NFL tries to bury that.
No, they will,
Yeah.
and that's why I think it will come from an outside source, not necessarily a sports journalist,
Yeah.
right? I think,
and not even that like it even matters that he was the last quarterback, but it's just like when you look at other teams and you look at other guys, like if the Ravens had been in the Super Bowl, they would have been like, well, Joe Flacco was last quarterback, right? If the Ravens had been in the Super Bowl and Lamar Jackson was QB,
and then we would have said Joe Flacco's the quarterback, and we would have moved on.
Yeah, exactly. And they would have been like, who did he play? They'd be like, what? What did you say?
Joe Flacco? Who?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so switching topics completely to baseball. Now, if you didn't know, the MLB 2020 class of Hall of Famers was announced yesterday. 2 men, well-deserving, made the Hall of Fame this year. Those men are Derek Jeter, who we all expected and knew was going to make it, and Larry Walker, who is the first, I believe, the first Canadian to ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Second Canadian. Okay.
I'll have to look up the first, but he's the second
Canadian. And he's the first true, like, Colorado Rockies guy to get in. And what it could do now is kind of take away that stigma of Coors Field and being a Rockies hitter, not allowing you to become in the Hall of Fame. And so I think that's a good thing for the game, too, because it's not fair that one team necessarily didn't have a Hall of Famer yet. I fully expect Todd Helton next year to be in Hall of Fame. I think he's Mr. Rocky. I think he's the best Rocky of all time, so he should get in, even though his stats are kind of sketchy, too. But so I think this opens the door for that. The one controversy that comes out of this is that Derek Jeter missed the unanimous vote by 1. Jared, give your thoughts on that.
Can we just, please, for the sake of argument, can whoever that person was that did not vote for Derek Jeter, can you just come forward?
Yeah, come on, man.
This is 2020 where nothing,
what a Bush League thing
nothing is ever hidden anymore. I just want to know your reasoning, right? I won't sit here and scold you. I probably will after he comes out and says, right? But I just want to know why. I mean, what did Derek Jeter ever do?
I got my pitchfork in the car, Alex.
Oh,
I got my pitchfork in the car.
Our resident baseball fan, Alex Silva, who is a Yankees fan, who I'm sure has plenty to say about this. It baffles me, right? This is Derek Jeter, the captain, right? Won 5 World Series championships, and on and off the field, never did one thing in his entire career that people would say is controversial. Never did steroids in the steroid era, when I'm sure he had plenty of opportunities to, right? Never ruffled the feathers with the team, wanted to be traded or whatever the case may be. I mean, he literally was the epitome of what a leader is, right? I was watching First Take on ESPN this morning, and they were talking about in the last 25 years who the greatest leader is in all of sports. And Derek Jeter's name was thrown out first, and well deserving as well, right? There is literally nothing on this guy's resume that you can point to and say, you know what? That one time I don't know, man. It's quite like
there's literally zero stuff.
Zero.
So
I want this person to come forward, reveal yourself, and just let us all know why you did not vote for Derek Jeter. Because I think it's a shame, right? First of all, you have to be 1% of the 1% to get into the Hall of Fame, and you have to be even more of a 1% to be a unanimous vote getter, right? And the fact that he was 1 vote shy, it's not like he was like 50 votes shy or it was something kind of catastrophic or ridiculous. 1 vote shy of being a unanimous vote. That would have to eat at me a little bit. I would have to, if I was Derek Jeter, I would have to find out who. I'm not saying that he would do anything, but I would have to find out who that guy.
That person's banned from Marlins games for the rest of the year.
I would have to find out who it is. Yeah.
I'll say there's a couple interesting things that came out of this. A lot of times the MLB Network guys are very neutral and stuff, but like guys like Ken Rosenthal and like Brian Kenny and all these they were like, that's not cool. Like that, we kind of need to find out who this guy is because they're our fellow, a writer or baseball kind of country, but like that's not cool that you did that. Here's another thing too. When you look at literally Mariano Rivera was unanimous. Mariano Rivera played with Derek Jeter almost all of those years that they won all those World Series and stuff. How many innings does Mariano Rivera normally, like maybe at most, pitch in a game?
Well, obviously, typically one. He would come in to close the game out.
Typically 1 inning, maybe 2, maybe 3 in the World Series, right? Maybe in 3. How many innings does Derek Jeter play?
9?
Yeah, 9.
9?
So
the whole game?
So what you're telling me is that if this is not a writer that didn't vote last year, that same voter voted for Mariano Rivera to be unanimous, but not Derek Jeter. Doesn't make any sense. Also, there's a couple sketchy guys on the ballot that got Hall of Fame nods. Number 1, J.J. Putz. You don't know who this guy is, but I barely know who this guy is.
Right.
600 career strikeouts, 37-3 win-loss record, 189 saves, 1-time All-Star, shared a dorm with Tom Brady.
Really?
Okay.
At Michigan. Oh,
that's probably why he got the vote, right? But that one vote could have gone to Derek Jeter. Maybe that's the guy. Maybe he was the guy. Maybe he was the other roommate with Tom Brady.
I'm telling you, some researcher right now is hunting this guy down, and this guy is about to get scolded within the next 24 hours.
Brad Penny, for example, way better stats. Totally doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. 121 and 101 win-loss record. ERA of 4.3 in his career. Over 1,000 strikeouts. 2-time All-Star, 1-time World Series champion. Doesn't sound like a Hall of Fame resume to me. Let's just, for F's sake, let's look at Derek Jeter's stats. Okay.
Why not, right? Because we're just comparing.
Okay.
That's what we do here.
3,465 hits, including his 3,000th hit being a home run.
Was that his very last hit?
No, but that was his 3,000th hit. His very last hit was a walk-off base hit to right field, typical Derek Jeter style. 14-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champion, World Series MVP, the year 2000, 5-time Gold Glove Award winner, 5-time Silver Slugger, Roberto Clemente Award, number 2 retired by the New York Yankees in Monument Park. The only thing he didn't do was win an MVP, which could be the one gripe you could say. Our friend Alex just said that in the comments as well. But come on, guys.
No, that's not.
Yeah, sorry they didn't know what pitch was coming, like Jose Altuve. Right? Derek Jeter would have had 400 home runs in his career. He might have a better resume.
Oh, he would have been tested every day for steroids.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, okay. So enough about Derek. We're both.
If I didn't know any better, I would have thought you were a Yankees fan. No. I mean, the way that you were just spitting that out.
Derek Jeter was.
No, it is.
Everybody respected Derek Jeter. Like you didn't hate Derek Jeter. You hated A-Rod.
You had to respect him.
You hated Matsui. You hated Roger Clemons.
And you know why? It's because he played the game the right way. Yeah. Right. He also respected everyone else. He never showboated. Right. No matter if he made a great play or not. Like obviously, I'm sure he celebrated, but he didn't go up into an opponent's face and have to showboat or do anything like that. Literally, the guy is the epitome of what a leader is. Yeah, hands down,
100%. And he well deserved. He made the Hall of Fame. Larry Walker also the Hall of Fame. But I just mentioned somebody a second ago. One of the evil empire guys for the Yankees over these last couple of years was Mr. Roger Clemons, and of course he's been, one of the main figures in the steroid scandal here. Of course, you have Barry Bonds as well. We all know the history behind him. And then another interesting one is Curt Schilling, who did not make the Hall of Fame this year, although his stats surely should get him in.
Stats alone.
Just stats alone in World Series championships as well. He's up there with some of the best pitchers all the time and has better stats than a lot of the guys in the Hall of Fame. Let's real quick go over Curt Schilling, because I don't think you know as much why Curt Schilling is being kind of
talk to me.
Excluded from this thing.
Let's talk
First of all, Curt Schilling, you need 75% of a vote to get in. For example, Larry Walker had 76.6. Woo! Very close. It was his last year, though. A lot of times,
right? You have 10 years.
A lot of times, the voters will vote you in because they know it's your last chance, and they're going to be.
Barry Bonds and I believe is it Roger Clemons have been on the ballot for 8. So you're saying in 2 years in their last year, you think they might get?
Well,
right now,
let's talk about
Barry Bonds went from 59% last year to 60, just under 61% this year. So we're thinking that he's going to get a 14% bump. 15% bump in 2 years?
I don't hear... Okay, for example, let me just give you an example. So Curt Schilling, who did not take steroids, but is very controversial on social media. A lot of extremely right-wing posts, a lot of posts attacking journalists, a strange post involving a young girl as well that has got him in trouble with a lot of the writers, the writers of Baseball America. And also, he's literally posted a picture of a writer like hanging or something like that. What you raise your hand?
It's a question. I'm not waving at you guys. This is a question.
Yes.
Were all of these posts that he has made post career?
Yes.
Like post playing career?
100%. Yes.
And if I'm listening correctly, you feel that he has not been voted in because of the actions that he has taken post playing career.
100%, and specifically in the last couple of years, comments he's made about baseball writers, specifically about them not putting him into the Hall of Fame. He got 70% of the vote this year. Okay, he was with Bonds and McGuire last year. Bonds and Clemons last year around voting. He was 62 or 61. And Bonds and Clemons were 59 and 60. So they put him with steroid guys. Okay, he got the jump now to 60 or 70. So he's extremely close. Schilling is also in his 8th year of voting. Let me just show you his stats to explain why maybe there's a little bias going on.
Break it down.
Okay? Without knowing any of the comments, right? 6-time All-Star, NLCS MVP in 1993, World Series MVP in 2001, 3-time World Series champion, 01, 04, 07, 2-time NL strikeout leader, 2-time MLB wins leader, Philadelphia Phillies and Boston Red Sox Hall of Fame. One of the best winning percentages in all of baseball, if not the best. I don't know the exact percentage on that, but ERA in the 3s, over 3,000 strikeouts.
All right, and just off the top of your head, not that you have to, kind of spill everything, but what are the qualifications for getting in as a Hall of Famer?
I'll say this: if you win more than 2 World Series, already people are going to be looking to try to get you in. I don't believe there is any single pitcher that has over 3,000 strikeouts. It is not. I would kind of consider it like 3,000 hits or like 500 home runs.
So, not to sit here and say that I agree with these posts that he's made or these controversial topics that he has brought up or any of that post-career. You are voted into the Hall of Fame no matter what sport based off of what you did while playing in that sport. Am I not correct?
Yes.
The stats that you just listed off right now are Hall of Fame worthy, even if you have no idea what baseball is. It's plain and
If
simple.
someone told you that, you'd be like, okay, well, so if everybody that has 3,000 strikeouts got in, besides the
So what I'm saying right now is what the problem is. Like why is he not in? Because these salty writers are too fed up and are looking a lot more at his post-career attitude and what he has done, as opposed to looking at his career and the reason why you actually get voted into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So he's being punished for what he has done post-career is basically what you're saying right now.
Absolutely 100%. Now there was okay, I'll give him this. There was rumors and there was kind of instances where he wasn't the most team-friendly guy either. He wasn't the best guy in the
Neither was
locker room.
Kobe Bryant.
Exactly. Yeah,
and I'm not trying to compare because I know the
never
situations were
anybody.
different. But you don't have to be the most liked guy in a locker room. You don't have to sit here and sign every autograph for a fan. Like, his stats don't lie. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, yes, he might not be the best representative or he might not be the best face of baseball, obviously. But I'm sorry. When you have those statistics, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, point blank and period. I don't see why he is not. Now, I'm sorry, I'm not as much of a baseball fan as you are, or as Alex or some of our other viewers here, so maybe I'm just a little confused. But looking at the numbers alone, he should be in the Hall of Fame, and that should be the end of the story.
And I do believe he will get into the Hall of Fame because he's at 70% of the vote, and I don't think people are going to take the vote off unless he literally threatens their family or something like that. But here's the thing. The other problem with this is that I think this is a social media creation, and this is a little recency bias. I couldn't find. We've been doing research right now this entire time you've been talking about. There are extremely racist players from back in the day that are in the Hall of Fame. They have said and done way worse than Curt Schilling. There's Ty Cobb, who was probably known as the dirtiest player ever, always coming in spikes high. Again, racist allegations against him as well. You know, you do have, and we will have certain guys that were linked to the steroid scandals that will get in, a la David Ortiz of the Boston Red Sox. I think that's a lot worse than what Curt Schilling has done. So, you know, writers, just like the guy that didn't vote Derek Jeter, and just like the guys that haven't voted Terrell Owens into the NFL Hall of Fame, let's grow up here, guys. Let's step it up, and let's stop being babies about this. Give the guy his credit. Stop taking it so damn personal, and let the guy into the Hall of Fame. Okay? Now let's transition to guys that I think a lot of people will argue should not be in the Hall of Fame, and that's Barry Bonds and Roger Clemons. We talked about them a little bit earlier, and then we jumped into Curt Schilling. But 60% of the vote, right? There's a lot of people and a lot of very prominent MLB writers that do vote them in every single year and say that based on their analysis and research of, you know, kind of post and pre-steroid stats, that specifically Clemens and Bonds should get the nod if anybody does get in.
So basically, if they're looking at before they started taking steroids, if they would have continued their career without steroids, yes, they still would have been on that trajectory
or stats and accolades before steroids that would have already, and they more than likely would have been in Hall of Fame contention.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's
those
still...
are the only two. The McGuires, the Palmeiros, the Sosas who cheated multiple times, got caught, all that stuff. They are never going to make it. Okay, Sammy Sosa has a horrible relationship with baseball as well. Mark McGwire, way better, but just, you know, right into the gills, to be honest. You can't put that guy in. The one thing with Bonds and Clemens as well is I believe they've absolved themselves legally of saying that they did steroids. So they're also like, you know, I don't want to bring up a very famous football player from the 70s that technically got off with his crime and was still great, you know. But it's kind of similar to that where there's naturally no foul play legally, but we all know.
Doesn't take a dummy.
Yeah, we all know. So Jared, what's your thoughts? As a non kind of, I don't want to say you're not a baseball fan, but as a non fanatic of MLB, avid fan of MLB, what are your thoughts on a guy like Barry Bonds or a guy like Roger Clemens potentially getting into the Hall of Fame?
I don't believe they should be in. I feel that they cheated for obviously multiple years, and you can sit here and, you know, as a writer or as an analyst person, you can sit here and project and say, looking at their numbers before they started taking steroids, and you can see, you know, maybe project their numbers, but that's all hearsay. That's all potential. None of that is reality. And when you look at the reality is, like you said, we're not dummies. We know that these guys cheated the game in order to gain success, while others were trying to play the game the right way. I mean, you look at Barry Bonds from when he first started in the league with the Pittsburgh Pirates to obviously his later careers with the Giants, and it's just obvious. The guy is built like a brick house, as opposed to when he first came in the league, he was a little scrawny dude. He looked like Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, that doesn't naturally happen over a career. Now, yes, obviously, when you become a professional and that is your main focus, you're not in college anymore. You know what I mean? You can focus more on your body and you can gain muscle. But you don't gain that much muscle, right? If you look at a picture of before and after, it is completely obvious. So for me, it's very plain and simple. He took steroids, and whether he wants to admit it or not, that greatly affected his stats and how his game was played. So therefore, I do not believe that either of these men should be in the Hall of Fame, because at the end of the day, they cheated. When you take steroids to gain an edge over an opponent, that is called cheating by the rule book.
Yeah, no, for
sure.
So
I don't see how you can let them in.
These guys definitely cheat. Okay, I don't care what happened after Roger Clemens went through 7 court cases. They cheated. Okay, we know they cheated. Andy Pettit said he saw the needle go in Roger Clemens' body. Like he was there in the room. It happened. Why would I lie? I did it too. I did the same thing. Like, Come on. This is always a tough question for me because I always used to be extremely anti-steroid guy. Like, come on, you guys suck, you're never getting in. Especially after Manny Ramirez ruined it for me when he was with the Dodgers and post-steroids was never the same, right? But here's the thing. I still am more like that than I am let's get them in. But when I look at the statistics prior to when they were kind of the allegations of steroids came out with these guys, when I hear these writers talk about the trajectory, it does make sense that they more than likely would have been Hall of Fame players, barring major injury. And I'm going to give statistics, and that's all I'm really going to say. I don't believe these guys. I'll just say this. I don't believe these guys should be in the Hall of Fame. But if they get in, I'm not extremely mad. So
you're lightening your stance over.
I have absolutely lightened my stance. This is not a stance I had 5-6 years ago.
Is that because, and just very quickly, I don't want to interrupt, but is that because you feel that steroids have just become more prevalent and we've become more not accepting of it, but it's more of just a reality in today's world?
No,
that steroids have been a part of sports. And what are you gonna do? Not vote in every great player?
Exactly. There's also the element. There's this element too that's got me is that there are players in the MLB Hall of Fame that probably did steroids that just never were thrown under the bus. And if everybody's doing steroids, is it really that bad to that guy's mind to do steroids? If you're literally trying to earn a contract, right? You're trying to make a living for your family. I know that's kind of a BS excuse because you're making millions of dollars and you can have a living for your family. Let's calm down. But when you're competing against these guys, and Sammy Sosa's roided, and Mark McGwire's roided, and Roger Clemons is roided, and all these guys, at that point, and 100, 200, 300 players are doing it,
Well, okay, but that's the difference though. If every player is on steroids, then it's more of a fair advantage because everyone's doing it. Yeah. It doesn't matter, but if you say 100 or 200 out of the thousands of players, then no, that's still cheating because not everyone is on that same playing field. True. So if you want to make steroids legal and say, okay, everyone, free reign, go ahead, have at it, go ahead, stick a needle in your body, then yes, then I think I would change my stance, and I think Barry Bonds on the way to get, I wouldn't because at that point, it wouldn't have been legal. You know what I'm saying? No, unless it's legal for everyone.
No, for sure.
Then no, that I think your argument is a little valid.
The side stealing thing, if it would have been, half the teams in the MLB compared to 1 or 2, we would be a lot less scrutinizing the Astros and Red Sox today and tomorrow and all these other days because there was just one guy, right? But this is a little worse. If there was so many people doing it in one single era of a couple of years. That's I'm not like I said, I don't think these guys should be in the Hall of Fame. What they did was wrong. But here's the argument that I'm going to make for the devil's advocate part of that. When you look at Barry Bonds, before I'll go 1997, 1998 when I assume he did steroids, right? He still had made the All-Star team 5-6 times. He had won 3 MVPs before that. Okay, that's Trout stuff right there. He'd won almost every single Gold Glove he'd ever won in his career, which was 6. He probably won 6 or 7 Gold Gloves before steroids.
So the resume's stacking up. Okay.
Yeah, the Silver Slugger Award, he'd won 5 times in a row for the outfield before he was 5 times, 4 times in a row, or excuse me, 5 years in a row, and then in 1996 before he took steroids. Okay. NL home run leader before he took steroids 1 year. And NL RBI leader that same year before he took steroids, okay? That, to me, going into your mid-30s, you're probably going to be getting close to Hall of Fame type numbers.
You're projected that way.
No, I'm not. Yeah, no, exactly. And then you look at Roger Clemons, right? No World Series in there either, so he didn't have that advantage. But look at Roger Clemons. An all-star in 1986, 1988, 1990, 91, and 92 before steroids. He was the Cy Young Award winner, a lot like Barry Bonds, 3 times before he took steroids. AL MVP as a pitcher before he took steroids. The wins leader 2 times before he took steroids. And the ERA leader 4 times before he took steroids.
Those are all great numbers, man. I don't disagree with you.
And a lot of all of these guys, played in their 40s, so their stats were elevated. I don't know where the home runs would have been with Barry Bonds. I think he would have been in the 400, maybe possibly 500 range without the steroids. But and same with Roger Clemons. Roger Clemons has over 4,500 strikeouts, man. Like,
here's
that's
a question.
insane.
Here's a question.
Yeah.
We're specifically talking about these two guys right now. Do they play into their 40s if they don't take steroids?
No, absolutely not. But that's why their stats are stupid. That's why Bonds broke the home run record. That's why he's the best slugging. It's why he walked 232 times in a season. That's why Roger Clemens has over 350 wins, over 4,600 strikeouts. Cy Young had 500. Wait, no, am I right about that? I might be wrong about that. But, like I said, Schilling should make the Hall of Fame with 3,000. Roger Clemens had 4,600. Like, he would not have got that without steroids. But he would have got over 3,000, right? He would have been over 250 wins, more than likely. His ERA still would have been in the threes. He had all those other awards already and may have won other ones later in his career. So that's the devil's advocate argument for these guys making it. Me and Jerry don't believe they should, but when you look at it that way, at least me, I can be like, okay, I can't argue that. And then maybe they just have to figure something out at the MLB Hall of Fame to maybe asterisk those guys, or maybe make it and be like, these are the scapegoats.
Make a second building,
yeah.
Right? A Hall of Fame.
You
with
only
an
put their
asterisk building.
stats till 1997.
Yeah, right there, right? And then you say they were projected to do this.
Exactly.
And there, but yeah, as far as putting them in the Hall of Fame, I'm sorry.
Real quick, because we are running low on time here. Now, I've stated on this podcast that I think the Astros cheating scandal is worse than taking steroids because it's a systematic way of knowing what pitches are coming. And I think knowing what pitches coming is way more beneficial than taking steroids because you still have to hit the damn ball. If you can't hit a curveball with steroids, you ain't hitting one on them, right? You ain't hit one without one, whatever I'm trying to say here. So, Jared, do you think the Astros cheating scandal does in any way change your mind about the steroid guys and maybe give them a little more leniency getting in? Maybe add a couple votes to their thing?
No, it doesn't change my. The only thing it does is it says that players from the Astros and the Red Sox in this time period during this scandal, though it's almost like with Barry Bonds, from the time that he started taking steroids, all of those stats, all of those home runs, all those gold gloves, all that stuff for me goes out the window. So for these players that were involved in this scandal, I think their numbers and their World Series and all that goes out the window. And I know that today, Rob Manfred, the Major League Baseball commissioner, came out and said that the Red Sox and the Astros were not going to lose their World Series. They will retain them. They will keep them. I'm of the mindset that they should both be vacated. They should not be able to keep those World Series. So, no, for me, I think it's very simple. I don't think that changes what these players did taking steroids. I don't give them any more leniency. I do agree that I think it's more egregious what the Red Sox and what the Astros did, because you're right. There's been current and former players who have come out, pitchers who have said, I would prefer to pitch against the guy who was on steroids rather than knowing what pitch I'm going to throw.
Yeah, I love that.
Right? So, I mean, with that is a very kind of eye-popping comment right there to make. And so I agree with you in that standpoint that this is a more egregious thing than maybe taking steroids. But no, at the end of the day, it does not. I do not give Barry Bonds and people who took steroids a little more leeway because of what we've seen in the past couple of years.
Yeah, I think if anything, it's going to be interesting going about it with, like you said, with the voting for guys like Jose Altuve, with guys like Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, if they ever make the Hall of Fame. You look back on it and you got to be like, I think at least we could say, hey, it's equivalent to maybe less, maybe a little bit more to taking steroids. And that's where these guys might not get their votes later. And if they do not make the Hall of Fame, you could track it back to this, right? Stuff like that. So, one of the podcasts right there. We hope you enjoyed that debate because it's just a very interesting one that I've wanted to have for a long time on this podcast, just because I know it's very controversial, and especially with this, with the worst cheating scandal since steroids happening in the last couple weeks. Just thought it was appropriate that because these guys still haven't really gained any traction in making the Hall of Fame, it was appropriate to have that conversation.
Right, and just so people do know, Barry Bonds and Clemens have 2 years left.
Yes.
Right, they're in their 8th year right now. Next year will be number 9, and the year after will be number 10. So 2 years left to get on, not get on the ballot, but to get that 75% vote to actually make the Hall of Fame. And like Nick mentioned, a lot of times when a guy gets that 9th or 10th year, some of the voters kind of, feel for them a little more.
Yep.
So we will see if the voters change their minds in the next year or two and become a little more lenient.
I'll say this. I don't know about 2 years from now, but next year is a very lean year for Hall of Fame. Like, there's going to be a lot of guys. Curt Schilling will probably get in because of this, but there will be a lot of guys where you have to place your vote somewhere. I think Clemens and Bonds are going to get a lot of votes. I think they'll move up a significant amount. I don't think it's going to be close to 70. I think it's going to be 65, 66 or something like that. Like I said, Curt Schilling went from 61 to 70 this year. I expect an even bigger jump for guys like Clemens or Bonds potentially next year in the voting, and maybe that 10th year. If they're around the 70 mark, there might be a little guys to change it. And then we are going to be talking about the biggest debate we ever have on this podcast. Those guys getting it, stuff like that. So, for Nick Nenad,
I'm Jared Smith.
This has been the Cover 2 Podcast. We will see you next week with a Super Bowl prediction podcast. See you guys.
Bye.